I'd like to talk a bit about the album concept for BHS Collective. So this first album is called mi-nEEm. Now mi-nEEm, the term, has lots of meanings. Of course, it's a palindrome, meaning you can spell it frontwards and backwards in the same way, which is a cool thing from a design perspective. But a mi-nEEm is actually a small note, a half note is called a mi-nEEm. Of course, the word minimum comes from mi-nEEm. It is a small thing, as in, don't despise the day of small beginnings, for instance. I was listening to the song Mystery that I wrote many years ago that served as a foundation of this song, Vivify. And it talks about a molecule of water being a universe that fits inside your hand. And the mi-nEEm is also known as a drop of water. That is one of the definitions of a mi-nEEm. But it also has 3 more definitions as a Hebrew word. So this word is used in Scripture when we have the species, for instance, the four types or the 4 species of Sukkot and the 7 species of Shavuot. We have, for instance, for Shavuot, these 7 agricultural items. We've chosen to lock into the pomegranate for this first album. And you'll see on the album cover this pomegranate bursting forth with life and the seeds coming forth and vivid color. Seemed appropriate. So this term mi-nEEm refers to the species, but it also refers to genres, as in types, musical genres. And one of the things that makes this album unique from most other albums, I would suppose, is that it encompasses many genres. Our team is quite dynamic in that we have artists from a classical background, from jazz background, from a rock background. And the album encompasses reggae, hip-hop, country, CCM, rock, pop. And I was talking with Stephen Harper. I said, do you think we have 7 genres on this album? And he says, yeah, I think you can say that. And we began to count through those. These 7 species, these 7 mi-nEEm, in a sense, just like on Shavuot, how you have 7 species. But there is one definition of mi-nEEm that is somewhat controversial, but also exciting and appropriate in our context. In the Amidah, which is the central prayer of Judaism, known as the prayer or Shemon Esrei, there are 18 benedictions. There is a later edition, which is a 19th, that is known as the Birkat Haminim, translated as the blessing of the heretics, or the types, sects. If you've heard of various religious sects that would have existed in the time of Yeshua and his followers. And of course, Yeshua's Jewish followers were a controversial sect because of their message of the fulfillment of Torah in Yeshua. And the worship being combined with Messianic Jews and traditional Jews would get tense. And I'm not saying this was the only reason that the Birkat Haminim was composed, but it was part of the reason, was to make Messianic Jews uncomfortable in the context of the synagogue. So this blessing, the Birkat Haminim, was written for this purpose, and it served its purpose. So we as Messianic Jews historically were known as mi-nEEm, these typed or this sect or these others that were rejected. And I found, much like the term Christian were Messianic, Meshiachim, these little messiahs or these little Christs, it was a term that we should embrace, even if it's meant to be derogatory. So I thought maybe it's appropriate to also embrace this idea of mi-nEEm, what some would call a heretic. There was a debate between a friend of mine who's a rabbi and a traditional rabbi, and the rabbi said to my friend, he said, "You're an apostate." And my friend said to him in return, "I'm not an apostate, I'm a heretic." This idea of the mi-nEEm, he wasn't abandoning Judaism, but rather he saw Yeshua as the Messiah and the fulfillment of Judaism and the Torah.